So after talking about the loops in the language, let's have a look at how arrays work in Java. So you know now, why do we use arrays? Because we want to save multiple values of the same type at the same time in a variable, and a variable does not suffice that because a variable can only store one value at a time. So for that purpose, we have the arrays in a language, right? And let's create a new class here quickly, where I'll demonstrate how do we use arrays in Java. So I'll just call it arrays demo. We'll have the main method again and hit finish quickly. So Eclipse again creates the class for us and opens the file for editing as well. So now how do you declare the array in Java? Again, it's a two-step process like a variable. First you have to declare it and then you can use it. And the declaration syntax in Java goes like this. So you put it like this, guys, type and then identifier, but before that you have the array representation brackets, the square brackets, which represent an array in Java like it does in other languages as well. And then the new keyword, because arrays in Java are objects. More about objects in a later session. So then the type and then the dimension, that is for how much size we want to put in for this array. How many elements at max you want to store in this array. And again, this type can be a primitive data type, or it can be a class type or an interface type as well later on. So for this, using this syntax, I can create my array. Let's say I want to create an integer array. I can just create it like this. I'll just call it the array and then say new int, and then I'll put in the dimension. Let's say I want to put it for 5. So I can now store 5 values of type int into this array called the array for me, guys, right? And then you have to use it. Using it is initializing the array. So this particular thing, by the way, is declaration and initialization, guys. Otherwise, if you would have just declared it, it would have looked like this. And then you can initialize it at the second line like this. That is the array and then the initialization part. Like this, guys, right? But what I did here is, as I said, declaration and initialization at the same line, like this. So now you have to put in values into this array. You can just say the array, and like with other languages, it has the index, and index in Java for an array also starts with 0, right? And what is the last index of an array in Java? It is dimension -1, because the array starts with the index 0. Right, and then we assign the values. For example, until, we'll say, for example, for 1, we'll put in some value 55, and then I'll just copy paste this, right? You can put in for 2, put it for 3, and for 4. For example, and then if you try to do this, now this thing here is not a compile time error. I'll say compiles fine, but an exception, it throws an exception at runtime, guys, and that is array index out of bounds exception, right? So that is a way for the JVM to tell you that is your code is trying to access an array location which does not exist, because I told you the last index of an array in Java is dimension -1, and the dimension here is 5. That is, the last one is 4, and this is an array index out of bounds exception. But this comes at runtime, as I told you, right? Because for the compilation to work, it just checks the syntax, and the syntax is completely fine. You'll save and run this. Just expect an exception at runtime. See, exception in thread main java.lang. Array index out of bounds exception index 5 out of bounds for length 5, right? A clear way for the JVM to tell you, for the compiler, for the Java runtime environment to tell you this cannot happen, right? So be careful. Then obviously you would want to put in the values to this array in a better way, right? Rather than putting it individually for every index. So just comment this. So, and we can take that from runtime as well through scanner, right? Now we know we have a way to take user input from runtime in Java, and that is through scanner, guys. And how do you do that? Again, I'll just have the scanner, right? Just call it scan new scanner from java.util, pass in the system.in as the argument, and then I'll say this time I can print out to the user, please enter 5 numbers or 5 integers, right? And then I can take them all in the loop. So I can say for, I'll define a for loop, and I'll say int index. I'll put the variable name appropriately to index. Again, I'm always for relevant names, guys. I'll say index 0, and then you'll say index is less than 5. But I have a better way. That is, sometimes you would not know the length of the array. So always put it like this. That is the name of the array and then the inbuilt variable length, right? Which returns the size of an array. So I'll say index is less than the array.length and then index plus plus, right? So run this loop until I've reached the length, the size of this array, right? The end of this array, and please put that into the array locations. I can say the array of index, which runs from 0 to 4, is equal to the scan.next int, right? Because I want to take in integers, guys. So obviously it's a better way than this, right? So runs 5 times and takes in the integers, and you can obviously print out what is there in the array. Now I can say values in the array are, just print out the array name, that is the array. Let's see if this works. I've run this, says please enter 5 numbers. I'll put in 5 numbers here. See, values in the array are, but you got an hexadecimal address of this array, right? A memory location, and we don't want that. So more on that later on. But for now, what we can do is, I can just print it out using the for loop again, or the while loop, or the do while. But I think here using the for loop is good. I'll again start with 0, and this time index is again less than the array dot length, and index increments by 1, and then I can just print it out on the screen. That is, this time print ln, and then I'll say the array of index. Let's run this. Please enter 5 numbers dynamically. See, 56, 33, 188, and 393479. Right, you've got this working, guys. So that is one of the ways you can declare or initialize an array in Java, and then take in runtime values, insert them in an array, and then traverse through the array as well, right? There's another way of declaring an array in Java, and that is something like this. Let's say I have a character array, but at the compile time, I know what is going to be saved in this array. So you can do it without the keyword new. And this worked in C and C++ as well. That is, I can put in values directly here. See, this is fine. So this type of a declaration you'll always use when you know what is going to be put in the array before compile time. Right. So you have yet another way to declare an array in Java, and that is like this, directly with new. And let's say I have to declare an integer array again. I can do it like this. Right. But this here works only in a specialized scenario, and that is, it's called anonymous array inline creation. I'll walk you through about this when we talk about methods, guys.